Could the struggles in your life be more than coincidence? Stay with me, and let's uncover the hidden forces working against you and how you can break free. Welcome, everyone. I want to begin by asking you a question that might stir something deep within your spirit. Have you ever felt like something is fighting against you, even when you've done everything right? Have you experienced seasons where your peace was shattered, your dreams turned to dust, or your relationships began to unravel without explanation? If you felt like there's more to your struggles than just life's challenges, then this message is for you. Because today we're going to talk about something that is often hidden in plain sight, but is incredibly powerful: the subtle signs of spiritual warfare. I'm about to share with you the warning signs that something may be at work in your life that isn't just a coincidence or bad luck. These are the moments where you feel the weight of forces beyond the physical world, where darkness tries to creep into your atmosphere. But here's the good news. You are not powerless, and you are not alone. As we dive deep into these signs, I pray that your eyes will be opened, your spirit will be strengthened, and you will leave with the knowledge that you have the authority to reclaim everything that has been stolen from you. So, stay with me until the end, because this message has the potential to shift your perspective and empower you to rise above every hidden force trying to keep you down. Let's dive in. Sudden, unexplained misfortunes are often one of the clearest indicators that something unseen is working against a person. In a spiritual context, misfortunes that seem to defy reason or pattern should never be dismissed as mere coincidence. When a person is walking in alignment with purpose, and everything begins to unravel without warning, loss of income, betrayal from trusted friends, sudden accidents, or missed opportunities stacked one after the other, it raises a red flag. These are not always just life's challenges. Sometimes they are targeted disruptions. There are spiritual forces that seek to steal, delay, and dismantle progress, often attacking areas where breakthrough is near. It begins subtly. A job offer mysteriously vanishes at the last moment. Contracts fall through without explanation. Arguments erupt out of nowhere, and everything that once worked smoothly becomes chaotic. Doors that were open suddenly close, and peace turns into confusion. The deeper danger lies in how normal it can start to feel. People begin to accept the storm as their new climate, not realizing that what they are enduring is not natural, it's intentional. A pattern of back-to-back loss, especially when it begins just after a major decision, spiritual breakthrough, or relational conflict, is a sign worth discerning. Witchcraft doesn't always manifest in dramatic rituals. Sometimes it looks like spoken curses, envy-fueled prayers, or manipulative control disguised as concern. These spoken intentions, when fueled by spiritual darkness, have power. Words carry assignments. When someone speaks failure over your life out of jealousy or hidden malice, they are casting seeds into the atmosphere. If you are unprotected, those seeds can take root. You begin to see things break, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, financially. A misfortune here, a delay there, until it forms a chain strong enough to keep you bound. Most people don't connect the dots when rooted in bitterness, envy, or revenge. This is why the ability to manifest physically. Not every loss is random. It can weigh the body down with circumstantial. Sleep cannot fix. When trouble comes uninvited, it can cause sharp, tormenting with no natural cause without pattern. When it hits hardest, right after joy tries to disturb appetite and mimic diseases that doctors cannot trace. It's not always life-testing. People of faith often ignore this dimension. It's something trying to endure what they should be rebuking. Chronic, mysterious illnesses are often overlooked as a natural decline because they hide behind the language of medicine. When suffering begins right after when the body breaks down without cause, after an encounter with a particular individual, clean, or during a time when a person begins to waste away and no doctor can explain investigating what is truly not just a medical issue. That is a signal. There are forces that operate in spiritual warfare, forces that send assignments to weaken or the emotions. These targets the body don't always come screaming. The vessel through which silence is carried, wrapping themselves in symptoms, draining joy, draining energy, and eventually isolating the person in their own struggle. Spiritual attacks that show up in the body are not just attacks on health. They are attacks on purpose, on momentum, on destiny. They aim to slow down what was about to accelerate. They aim to distract the mind and exhaust the spirit until the person no longer prays, no longer fights, no longer dreams. Especially when a person has no history of illness, but suddenly begins to suffer inexplicable physical conditions, patterns must be questioned. Was there a triggering conversation, a strange gift, a relationship that changed tone? These are clues. Witchcraft operates through contact, through words, through jealousy dressed as love. And when that energy is sent with intention, the body often feels it first. Healing can't begin until the true source is confronted. Not every illness has a medical root. Some are spiritual chains disguised as sickness. Recurring nightmares and sleep paralysis are often dismissed as psychological or stress issues, but in the spiritual realm they are far more serious. When sleep, the place of rest and restoration, becomes a battlefield, it is often a sign that something unseen is pressing in. Night after night, a person may find themselves trapped in tormenting dreams, chased by shadows, visited by figures that bring fear, confusion, or shame. These are not ordinary dreams. They carry a weight that lingers even after waking. A heaviness follows throughout the day, a cloud of fear or unease that cannot be shaken. The mind replays what the spirit encountered, and though the body awakens, part of the soul feels bound. In some cases it goes deeper. The person cannot move. They wake up paralyzed, eyes open, heart racing, and yet they are frozen. They feel a presence in the room, a weight on the chest, a pressure on the spirit. This is not imagination. This is an attack. Sleep is sacred. It is where visions are given, where instructions come, where peace is restored. When witchcraft is operating, it often targets sleep to steal peace and sow fear. The goal is to destabilize the inner world, to keep the person in a state of dread, exhaustion, and confusion. These encounters are not random. They often increase after spiritual steps are taken, after breaking ties with toxic people, or after rejecting something that was sent with hidden intentions. Witchcraft works through open doors, objects, words, even physical contact. Once access is granted, it aims to disrupt the core, and there is no time more vulnerable than sleep. Nightmares full of snakes, shadows, sexual encounters, or repeated scenes of death and fear should never be ignored. These are messages. Sometimes they are warnings. Other times they are attacks in motion. Sleep paralysis especially reveals a spiritual presence attempting to dominate, to intimidate, to weaken authority. It leaves the person feeling helpless, spiritually suffocated, and disconnected from their own strength. When this becomes a cycle, it is not a medical problem, it is spiritual warfare. Those who carry light often attract darkness, and those with a calling are often marked by opposition. If peace has left your sleep, if your dreams are no longer your own, then the issue is not just within you. Something is knocking at the door of your rest, and it must be confronted before it takes root. Unnatural strain in relationships is one of the most overlooked signs of spiritual manipulation. When connections that were once full of trust, laughter, and unity suddenly shift into tension, misunderstanding, and emotional distance, it is not always due to personality clashes or personal mistakes. There are moments when the root of conflict is not human at all, but spiritual interference, working to divide and destroy what was once healthy. Relationships, especially close ones like marriage, family, and spiritual friendships, are targets because unity carries power. When two or more walk in agreement, they become spiritually stronger, more protected, and more effective. Witchcraft aims to sever that agreement. The enemy of peace often plants seeds of suspicion, jealousy, or offense into the hearts of those closest to you. A simple conversation is misunderstood, words are twisted, assumptions are made. Suddenly, someone who once loved you now looks at you with eyes of doubt or even hatred. Tension rises without cause. Emotional walls are built overnight. It feels like you're speaking two different languages, no matter how hard you try to fix it. These aren't just disagreements. They are symptoms of interference. Sometimes, this spiritual manipulation comes through others. People who speak lies into ears, spread confusion through gossip, or pray harmful prayers cloaked in false concern. Jealousy is a doorway. Envy is a weapon, and when someone opens themselves to those forces, they can become vessels for spiritual disruption. The most painful part is that those affected often have no idea they are being influenced. They believe the feelings are their own, unaware that they are under a subtle, targeted attack. The result is broken trust, missed destiny connections, and isolation. Isolation is one of the enemy's greatest strategies. If you can be pulled away from those who sharpen and strengthen you, you become easier to weaken. If your inner circle turns against you, doubt creeps in, and spiritual strength begins to fade. If you can be pulled away from those who sharpen and strengthen you, you must look beyond the surface, in spite and pain. Look florist in the eye. If you have been refused, not every falling out is natural. Not every cold heart turned on you was acting alone. Something may have been sent to divide, and what was once united must now be spiritually defended. Loss of passion and mental confusion are signs that something deeper is at work against a person's destiny. When a vibrant soul suddenly becomes dull, when a person who once dreamed boldly can no longer think clearly or even care about what once mattered, it is often more than emotional fatigue. It is spiritual interference designed to suffocate purpose and paralyze movement. Witchcraft operates like a fog. It doesn't always destroy instantly. It clouds the atmosphere slowly until nothing looks or feels the same. Ideas feel heavy, decisions seem impossible, and the energy to act disappears. This isn't just burnout, it's a deliberate strategy to rob a person of clarity and conviction. People who were once filled with creative ideas, spiritual fire, and direction begin to feel like they're just surviving. They lose track of time, they question everything, and they often can't explain why they feel so disconnected. This is not just about mental health, it's about spiritual theft. The mind is a battlefield, and when the enemy can't stop someone externally, he goes after their inner world. Confusion is one of the most common weapons used in spiritual warfare. It creates loops of doubt, fear, overthinking, and forgetfulness. The person begins to second-guess their instincts, their faith, even their own identity. Witchcraft may be behind it when this fog of confusion follows a spiritual decision, a break from a toxic person, or the rejection of something that didn't feel right. That mental heaviness is not random, it's intentional. Often, it begins after receiving something, a message, a gift, even a compliment laced with envy. The words we receive are spiritual doors. If something spoken carries poison, and it's allowed in, it will begin to work from the inside. Suddenly, the person feels tired without reason, uninspired by what once brought them joy. They sit in silence, staring at walls, questioning their value, unable to pray or think clearly. This is not laziness. It's not just stress. It's a spiritual assault on passion and focus. When someone who carried light starts shrinking, when their voice grows quiet, when they no longer recognize themselves, it is time to look beyond the physical. Something unseen may have stolen their fire and replaced it with confusion. The enemy knows that if he can dim the mind, he can delay the mission. Physical manifestations in the environment are often the most ignored, yet most alarming signs of spiritual disturbance caused by witchcraft. When objects begin to break without explanation, when electronics malfunction in patterns, when lights flicker or doors creak open without wind or cause, many dismiss it as coincidence or faulty wiring. But for those who are spiritually alert, these signs are not to be taken lightly. The spiritual realm often expresses itself in the natural, and the atmosphere around a person can become a reflection of the war being waged against them. An environment once full of peace may suddenly feel heavy, tense, or even cold. A room that used to bring comfort now feels unsettling. People report sudden chills, untraceable odors, or the constant sense of being watched. These are not just psychological effects, they are physical signs of a spiritual presence that was not invited. Witchcraft, especially when sent through curses or conjuring, can manifest through the environment as a means to intimidate, oppress, or gain access. These disturbances may increase after contact with a specific person, after receiving a strange gift, or after a significant spiritual shift in one's life. Unexplainable shadows, movements seen from the corner of the eye, or hearing whispers or knocks in the night are not to be brushed aside. These are spiritual alarms. Something has crossed the boundary. Many people live with this type of oppression daily and have no idea they're under spiritual attack. They clean their homes, but the atmosphere doesn't lift. They rearrange furniture, but the unrest remains. This is because the issue is not in what is seen, but in what is unseen. Objects can be cursed. Items brought into the home with unknown spiritual history can carry attachments. Gifts from people with impure intentions, even if they look harmless, can be open doors for torment. And once that door is open, the atmosphere begins to shift. Sleep is disrupted, arguments rise without reason, and peace becomes scarce. These environmental manifestations are warnings that something has been sent and it has made itself at home. The spiritual world is not silent. When it moves, it leaves evidence. If the atmosphere feels wrong, if the air feels thick, if your space no longer feels like yours, it is not something to ignore. It is something to confront. What many call coincidence or misfortune may, in truth, be a spiritual assignment working quietly to drain, delay, and divide. Witchcraft is not always loud, not always dramatic, but it is real, and it is strategic. It shows up in the sudden chaos of your life, in the unexplained pain in your body, in the dark weight pressing on your sleep, in the breakdown of your closest relationships. In any time you're close is the time even when you're surrounded by it. You have only yourself and knowledge to break off, to break through, to break down. The only way of judgment is in quick pain. These are not just symptoms, they are signs, and the most dangerous thing you can do is ignore them. Awareness is your first defense, discernment is your second. You were never created to live under spiritual oppression. You were meant to move in clarity, to walk in peace, and to live boldly with purpose. So when darkness tries to settle around your life, don't settle with it. Stand up. Examine what has entered your life, what has shifted, what has gone silent, and what no longer feels like it belongs. What you recognize, you can resist. What you confront, you can conquer. You do not have to accept curses as your reality. Freedom begins with the decision to open your eyes and take back what was quietly stolen. Thank you for taking the time to listen with open hearts and sharpened spirits. May this message stir your awareness, ignite your boldness, and remind you that you were never meant to walk in darkness. Stay discerning, stay strong, and never forget. You were born to rise. Above every hidden attack sent to keep you down. Be watchful, be wise, and be unshakable.